Okay, so there has to be a standard of training. There has to be a level. We can't say, here's the way you do it, and that's not nearly as good as the way we do it over here, because we're dealing with jurisdictional, we're dealing with law enforcement, and we're dealing with a set of standards that we have to achieve. So the IOCE comes out and says, okay, we have forensic standards. Now what we need to do is we need to talk about digital forensic standards and what a forensics behavior attitude is. And we're going to learn about those major tenets from them. And also the Scientific Work Group on Digital Evidence came out. That's a more US-centric based organization. Came out and said, yes, we definitely have to have a training standard, and we have to set up what are the requirements here. And we're going to go over those standards and principles. And then the American Society for Crime Lab Directors did the exact same thing. So they're all in agreement. Yeah, we got to get something done. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, some of them have created their own certifications, and some of them have blessed other people's certifications. So we're just going to talk about a couple of the different certifications that are out there. Digital Forensics Certified Practitioner, the Certified Computer Examiner. By the way, my personal opinion is that the CCE, which is for law enforcement only at this point, is probably the top of the list. It's probably the most difficult one to get and takes the most rigor in training. That's an opinion, and I'm sure that somebody else from SANS would say something different, or from the EZ Council would say something different. But each one of these certifications has its place. There's SANS. They actually have their own certified forensics analyst. I've actually taken the SANS courses, the 408 and 508 courses, to learn about forensics from a very practical standpoint, from a how do you actually get the data done. It's a brilliant course, but it is very, very technical, very time consuming, and to get that certification, well, as my buddy Don says, it's a heartbreaker, because you really got to work hard at it. Then we've got the Certified Forensics Computer Examiner, and I think that certification fits in well with law enforcement. It's more on the technical side also. Now, the Association of Forensics Multimedia Analysts, this is multimedia analyzation, have also created their own certification, and they say we're going to have a standardization of all this training, because right now there isn't one. So everybody's agreeing that, hey, what is the minimum for digital forensics in computers? And we're going to set these minimums for the courses. And any course that doesn't meet these minimums, then we should kind of toss it out on its ear. Now, the Computer Hacking Forensics Investigator, it's got a weird name to it. Computer Hacking Forensics Investigator. It's an add-on to the Certified Ethical Hacker. It is part of the hacking. It keeps that hacking mindset in it. It still talks about all the other things that the other certifications talk about, as how do we present in court, how do we deal with this, how do we prosecute, what's search and seizure, how's our chain of custody, all of those items that we have to deal with as far as law enforcement is concerned, but it has a different focus, and it answers the question, if I got hacked, how could we tell? So that's its main focus. I also think that the CHFI is a way to whet your appetite. It's a way to say to you, you know what? There's this phone forensics, and this is how you do phone forensics, and this is the high-level overview of it. If you're going to do phone forensics, you need to do this, and this over here. You can't just take this course and be a phone forensics expert. My friend Bill Teal, he says, phone forensics is changing so quick that I can barely keep up, and they consider me the expert in it. So we're going to whet your appetite in a whole bunch of different areas, and I'm also going to point you to other resources so that you can dig a little deeper. But the course itself is complete. It does what we're supposed to do, which is it teaches you the basics of forensics. It teaches you how some of those activities work. It spurs you on to be more and to learn more. And remember, once you have this base information, you need to go out and grab a hold of that forensic thing that you're doing. If you're doing mobile device forensics, you've got to learn all about that. If you're doing it from the tool standpoint, you need to learn about EnCase. You need to go take an EnCase course, or you need to go take an FTK course. These will get you to be the forensics expert that will then be approved eventually by the court in the expert witness concept. But just getting the CHFI, you're not an expert witness. You have to put 4 years into the field, and you have to really know what you're doing. And so I want to talk to you before we move on about the kinds of things that you should know to prepare for this course. First off, you need to at least know 2 operating systems. You need to have a clear understanding of what security is all about and maybe have the Security Plus certification. You need to know your networking inside and out. The Network Plus would help you with that. You need to know how a disk drive works. Even though we're actually going to talk about that, you have to have that understanding from something like an A+ course. I would say that you also have to have a clear understanding of the packet analysis, because one of the things that you learn using something like Wireshark is the ability to look at data abstractions and de-abstractions. For instance, a lot of times as forensics analysts, we're going to look at the hex pane and we're going to see something is wrong with a particular file, and we're going to have to dig into the hex to know what it is. Other times we can, instead of saying, well, let's not look at the hex pane, let's look at the ASCII pane, we can go ahead and see what data is there, and maybe that data has been shifted inside of that particular file, or maybe that file has been corrupted. And so you need to know how a hex editor works, how hex reading works, and how to jump between those different panes. And that's why I say Wireshark is good, because it says, okay, here's the packet, here's what it looks like in ASCII, and here's what it looks like in hex down below. And since you've got that ability to switch between those and understand that, that goes a long way to becoming a forensics investigator. Okay, so I've been talking on now for a couple of minutes. Why should you listen to me? Well, I have the CHFI plus 22 other certifications, and I've taken a little more than 60 tests at this point as far as technology is concerned. I'm a teacher by trade, but I also do penetration testing and security consulting as my living. I work with forensics investigators, and I also help out in forensics investigations. Not on a law enforcement side, but on a technology and internal to an organization, kind of on a malware side of things. I wrote a column in Pentest Magazine in 2012. It was all 12 issues, and here you can see that I was on the cover of the Pentest Magazine. So that's why you should listen to me. Now, here's why I think you should really listen to me about CHFI. Take a look down below. Now, this is a black and white printout, so I had to put a little color in it, but you'll notice that I passed the test. And I didn't do too shabby of a job. So I kind of understand what's going on with the test, but also what's going on with the real world.